Here we are back again on the Epic Success Podcast. I am Len Giancola. My man Mark Yagi is right there.
What's up?
Everything is good. And today we're going to do something different. Neither one of us prepared for this. We're just going to wing it. We came up with the topic literally 30 seconds ago, but we thought it would be pertinent to kind of help people out there that have been dealing with a really tough year over the last year. We're recording this in April of 2021. So obviously the last year has been insane in the entire world. Whether it's financially, politically, economically, health, and with COVID. And we want to talk about maybe our experiences of how we've dealt with, I guess there's no similar year, but we've been through a couple of crazy years in our lives, how we dealt with that and how we adapted to this past year for our own personal growth, whether financially, health, physically, mentally, whatever it may be. So Mark, you are the soothsayer. Tell everyone, how did you deal with this last year and still going on? It's not ending anytime soon, apparently. And how are you trying to thrive in a otherwise difficult environment?
Well, I just in starting the topic, I think about, what's his name? Charles Dickens, the guy that wrote Tale of Two Cities. And he started the book with, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
Yeah.
And that's for sure, because like last year was a bad year for me. I lost my dad and he was my best friend and it was really tough. And I know a lot of other people are like that. They've lost people that they love. And it seemed like a lot of people were lost. Maybe it wasn't to COVID, but it just all kind of happened last year, at least a lot of the people I know. But on the other hand, it was a magical, fantastic year for me. Actually, one of the best years I've had. Kind of wish my dad would have been around to enjoy it with me, but that's the way it goes. And so it was the best of times, the worst of times. And how do you navigate through it? And what I started to realize early on was that we weren't getting the straight shot. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy guy, not necessarily that I believe every conspiracy, but I just kind of don't think that we're always getting the straight shot. I think, sometimes we're getting spun. And I always thought from the very beginning that this COVID deal had some things that didn't stack up for me. The masks didn't stack up. Cloth has big old giant holes in it and microbes are minuscule and they go right through. But everybody says you got to wear a mask. Then they didn't. Then they did. Now you got to wear two. And then you still have to wear them if you got a vaccine. Like, to me, common sense kind of got thrown out the window. But we're not going to talk about my feelings on what's going on.
We could go down a deep rabbit hole there if you'd like.
We could spend an hour on this thing. I happen to be in a state that kind of in Florida that kind of throws a lot of those rules out the window, and we're still doing fine. So make your own call. But that is all to set up, at least for me, Len. One of the things that I had to do last year to make sure that I had a good year. And that was to kind of eliminate a lot of that rabbit hole that you talk about, getting sucked into that conversation. I'm really tired of talking about COVID. I don't know about you, but like every conversation is around COVID. It has been for a year. I'm tired of talking about it. And kind of woven into that is politics, right? So there's the politicians and the local, the state, the county, the world politicians are all talking about it. They're all getting us to do things. There's always discussions around it. And if you get sucked into that environment, that's what you start to focus on. What you focus on grows. And so I don't want to keep talking about that. I don't want to even bring any energy into it. So what I realized early on was that I have to kind of eliminate or at least reduce drastically the amount of the role that news and politics and TV and all those other things play in my life. And so just to round that off, I was able to say, you know what? I spent a lot of time on social media. I got to stop that. I know you did the same thing. I could watch a lot of TV, or you could binge easily on Game of Thrones or whatever the binging show du jour is on Netflix and lose it all the time. I threw myself into creating online courses for people to help them make money. And I think I've created some really, really cool things because I was able to focus. But you can't focus with all these things coming at you. We get 5,000 minimum advertising pitches thrown at us every day, whether it's a brand, it's a logo, it's an ad on Facebook, it's something on Instagram, a TV ad. We're constantly being bombarded with consumerism. And that takes the brain away from its focus. It makes you distracted. And I don't know about you, but when I get distracted, it takes me a while to get focused back on my task. And so the quote, or the moral of the story, I should say, is to eliminate the distractions as much as you possibly can. I know it's getting harder, but you've got to make a focus. You've got to make a plan. Try to eliminate those things so you can focus on the things that are important to you the creation, the creating your own world, the moving forward rather than playing reactive defense all the time with whatever's being thrown at you.
Yep. I did similar things. I'll kind of go through each category. I guess social media. Yep. I've been also off social media for over 6 months. I think it's about 8 months now. What led to that decision was 2020's political environment. I found to be very negative, no matter what side you were on. And it was just thrown in your face almost as much as ads being thrown in your face. And a lot of those ads were political last year, right? So I just found it to be a negative feeling it gave me. I didn't like hearing other people's opinions. I didn't like hearing the media's opinions. I didn't like hearing the candidates' opinions. So I really distanced myself from it, except for election night. I have not watched the news at all, like literally zero. And that's about 6 months from now. I have not even touched the news. Don't know what's going on. Don't care what's going on unless it's affecting me. I check it out on my own, what I need to read and be aware of. As far as COVID, I have not watched a briefing. I have not watched anything. I was admittedly a little more sheltered than others, just dealing with elderly family members. So our family did kind of err on the cautious side for most of the time. Over the last month or so, we've been out and about, almost back to normal. While some parts are still uncomfortable, we're just going on with our life. We live in Florida as well, as you know, and just to be in a place like that where you can be outside every day. I think I've been outside every single day for the last year. I haven't missed a day being outside doing some sort of activity, even if it's just walking a few miles, riding a bike, golf and tennis, beach, whatever it may be. I tried to elevate certain parts of my life over the last year. So I think I mentioned this on one of the previous podcasts. I started learning the Italian language, where I would have never done that in the past. I started learning different market trading strategies, thanks to you, over the last year, which have been great. I learned how to capitalize on social media, not for myself, but as a revenue stream for business, and had some nice income streams created and exits created and assets and exits created over the last year I would have never had. As far as health, I've been, like I said, very active where maybe I wasn't as before COVID. My relationships have strengthened within my family unit. We spent obviously a lot of time together, maybe more than we would want to, but it really strengthened the bond in our household. It was already strong, but now it's super strong. We did a lot of things together and really appreciated each other even more, and actually created more friendships locally than we had before, because everyone in my community was kind of in the same boat, and we started doing things together locally that were safe and that were smart and that were also healthy alternatives to being, like, instead of being in your house, being outside and doing things together with friends, made some new friends and expanded those relationships. So it's been a great year. Besides the feeling of worry around the world, it's been a great year for us personally and my family.
That's awesome. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. You ready?
Yep.
All right, teach me and the listeners and viewers of our podcast how to say hello and goodbye in Italian.
Well, it depends what time it is during the day. So buongiorno is early in the day. Buonanotte is good night. Goodbye, you could say ciao. You could say arrivederci if you're not going to see them for a while. Ciao is just like hi, bye. You can use it for hi or bye. So there's formal and informal ways to say everything in Italian, which is very confusing because even some of the normal words that they use have a masculine and feminine quality to them, where in the English language we don't have that really. So it's been a struggle, and I spent more time on it the first half of 2020, and then when I realized I couldn't get to Italy on vacation, kind of lost a little bit of the effort, let's put it that way. But I'm still keeping track, and I've watched a lot of Italian shows in Italian to just see how they react with words, because sometimes just studying words, it's hard to actually learn the use of it in a conversation. So I've been doing that as well. These are just things I would have never done a couple of years ago.
And that's what they say. If you want to learn a language, not only can you go to the country and immerse yourself in it, but you can watch the shows and get subtitles, and you can kind of figure it out. And eventually, through osmosis, I think it sinks in. But going back to the subject that we had a minute ago on focus, I don't know about you, but I don't miss social media. Like,
don't miss it at all.
It hasn't changed at all. Like, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican or a libertarian in office, like, my world has not changed. I just keep doing my thing, because at the end of the day, it's my thing, right? It's nobody else's thing. Right. I'm in charge of my thing. I would say this on my courses, that you create your future. I create my future, right? Nobody else. And so if I'm letting my mood be affected by the news or the politics or the or the social media or whatever, I'm an effect. I want to be a cause, man. I want to be a cause. Like, I'm in charge of my mood. I'm in charge of the results that I get in my life. 100% responsible for it. So that's what I noticed in this. And I guess the message to the viewers is try it, try getting rid of, I deleted Twitter because I just found myself just kind of going back there, getting that little dopamine hit. Hey, what's going on? I wonder what this guy's saying. What's this guy saying? Pretty soon, 20 minutes go by and there's another 20 minutes. And I do it 3 times a day. That's an hour. Add that to Facebook or Instagram. Add that to my like pretty soon. Like, how many hours a day do you really get it done?
Yeah, and I enjoyed social media as a means of keeping in touch with people before last year. But then last year was such a polarizing year in so many ways that I couldn't take the scroll. I couldn't take it. I couldn't take everyone's opinions. I couldn't take everyone's what they were doing, like the BS that people put on social media when it's BS. I couldn't take any of that. So I said, I got to just get out. And I can't believe how great it was, because at first when I did it, I was like, I felt a little void in my daily life. You know what I mean? The first couple of days, that went away quick, like real quick, quicker than I thought.
Yeah.
So I didn't miss it. I don't miss it at all. I'll never go back. Don't miss it.
Well, pal, I think we kind of touched on a few points that maybe people could take away from this, and kind of if they're gearing themselves towards success. This is certainly one of the things that I know that most successful people do is they eliminate distractions. They say no to things that don't matter to them or shouldn't matter to them. So why don't we wrap it up? Why don't you tell me one takeaway that people could leave this podcast with, and I'll do the same.
I think that when there's something thrown at you that you don't expect, there's 2 reactions you can have. One is, woe is me. And there's some times where it is woe is me. You get a bad break and there's something serious you really have to deal with. But if you're in the category where it's not life-threatening and it's not really super life-altering, try and find the opportunity in that. Whether it's a market crash, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's whatever it is there an opportunity there where you can elevate yourself and create that epic life we talk about all the time, or at least get closer to it? And I made sure that when I got into a negative mindset, I started thinking about the way to make an opportunity out of this and not go, woe is me, and not woe is us, and how can me and my family elevate ourselves towards that epic lifestyle we strive to get better and better each day at.
I love that. I would say for me, I read somewhere that if it's not a heck yes or a hell yes or whatever, it's a no. And, that's one of the critical skills of successful people, is being able to say no to a lot of the opportunities, a lot of distractions. So to me, if it's not a big old yes, make sure it's a no in your life. And I think you'll have more success on the other side of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we hope everybody liked these few tidbits. Hope it helps you in your life going forward. And we'll see you next time on the Epic Success Podcast.
Just be epic.